Grunge music has grown so much since the early 90s, both in the sonic quality of the music and in the ways in which it gets recorded. In the earliest days of grunge, bands found their sound drowned in distortion and strived for the sound of unpolished lo-fi sounding recordings. Today, the same aggression and raw performances are there, but the technology has changed the way we approach recording and mixing grunge. Grunge music has always had a very specific sound and audience. It predates many other genres we discuss like metalcore and djent, but grunge mixers have found a way to take the modern practices of these genres and apply them to bands that are finding success with grunge music today. Several notable artists from the peak of the grunge era continue making music today with a modern production approach, including groups like Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and Stone Temple Pilots. More and more often, we're seeing these groups take influence from other genres, borrowing from hard rock and even psychedelic music to experiment with their sound. We're also seeing bands like Title Fight and Citizen combine elements of grunge with post-hardcore elements for a new spin on the genre. From a production standpoint, what exactly should we be doing to create the best mix possible for a grunge artist? Well, starting with recording grunge music. Recording a band live is an extremely rewarding experience when it's done right, but it takes a ton of work and prep to get perfect. Successful grunge producers like Steve Albini know that it's all about the tracking session though. For those unfamiliar, Steve was the producer on Nirvana's In Utero album, perhaps one of the most definitive records in the genre. Albini's approach to recording is almost all analog, which combined with his extensive experience in the studio gives him a very organic sound. His focus during recording is to accentuate the elements of a band that make them sound unique and help the artists achieve their vision for a song. Loud, powerful drums and buzzy guitars that are just as full of feedback and noise as they are notes are staples of the genre. It's all about artfully taking those noises and bad sounds and making them sound musical. Digital audio engineers recording grunge should take heed of these concepts because even in the box, a great sounding song starts from a great sounding recording. Learn to capture not only the instruments, but also the space around them. There's a reason garage rock brings to mind a certain sound, and no amount of in-the-box processing is going to sound as natural as capturing that room for real as part of the recording session. Vocals are an essential part of the mix in grunge, and many producers opt for a largely double-tracked vocal approach thanks to the density and dissonance a loosely doubled vocal can add. Beyond the performance though, a grunge vocal should still be clear and present toward the front of your mix, and compression can go a long way to help smooth out anything that's too dynamic or inconsistent. Check out this great video example of how gain reduction 2 can be used on a grunge vocal as a complete vocal production suite, from de-essing to low-end cleanup and everything in between.
Alright, so this is our project with our vocal track. First of all, I would love to thank Telefunken for providing such an amazing multitrack. The song is called Happy Pills by the grunge band from Seattle, Candlebox. Before starting, let's listen to the song without applying gain reduction 2 to the vocal track.
Sometimes you wait to see yourself. Happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourself.
The vocal track sounds amazing, but the main problem is that it's very dynamic, with ups and downs in volume, which makes it a bit inconsistent on the mix. So, in order to fix that, I am going to apply gain reduction to the vocal track. So I will go here, add gain reduction 2, and voila! Look at this interface. I love it. It looks modern. It looks fresh. First, let's check the basic stuff. This is the power button which turns the plugin on and off. Then we have the input knob that tells the amount of gain that goes into the plugin. It goes all the way up to 24 dB. Then we have the output knob to control the final amount of volume. It goes all the way up to 36 dB, but it has an integrated saturator that avoids it from clipping. My advice is to start with 0 dB because it doesn't change the output volume automatically depending on the input level. So if you don't want to get scared by a very loud voice, I suggest you to start with 0 dB. And then we have the mix knob, which tells you how much unprocessed or processed signal you want on the output, being 0, the dry or unprocessed signal, and 100 the wet or process signal. If you put it somewhere in between, you will hear both of the signals at the same time, so it can work as a parallel compression. Before using gain reduction 2, there is a feature inside the input knob to automatically calibrate the amount of input signal. To do so, just press Shift and double-click on the input knob and start playing your vocal track using the loudest part as a reference. Once the processing bar says complete, the input gain will be adjusted automatically. Let's find the loudest part, which looks like this one. I will loop this segment, solo the vocal track, and start playing. Okay, he adjusted the input to 5.4 dB. Now what I am going to do is I am going to play the song and I will adjust the output to match the volume of the previous one, so it will sit better in the mix.
See yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud. Never ever heard what you said. Can't you see yourselves? Can't you understand that?
Okay, that sounds good. The first new feature I want to highlight is the mode feature, which has two options, heavy and light. The heavy mode is the compression algorithm found on Gain Reduction 1, which is quite an aggressive compression, but the light mode has a softer compression and even more saturation on it. This one works fine on pre-compressed vocals and softer genres like ballads and acoustic stuff. But as we are with a grunge song, we are going to stick with the heavy option. And now here we have our old friend, the Slay Fader. If you have Gain Reduction 1, you will know what this is for. This controls the amount of compression of the signal. The more you move the fader to the right, the more compressed the signal will be. Let's see how it affects the vocal track. Let's solo it.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud. Never ever heard a word you said.
In this specific song, I like the vocals to be compact, to be squeezed like a wall of sound that cuts through the mix. Now let's have a look at the other new features that this plugin offers. We have the Sibilance Knob. This one works as a de-esser in a way that the lower the value, the stronger the intensity of the de-esser will be.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well.
Can you see those green waveforms? They tell you the original amount of S on the vocal track, and the white waveform inside the green one shows you the final amount of S after applying the value of the Sibilance Knob. Now I am going to adjust it to taste.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud. Never ever heard a word you said. Can't you see yourselves? Can't you understand?
That's fine. Now let's carry on with the new breath knob. This knob basically works as a noise gate, but it's intended to remove the breaths of the vocal track. The lower the value of this knob, the higher the threshold of this noise gate.
Sometimes you wait, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud. Never ever heard you said. Can't you see yourselves? Can't you understand? There's more truth in the way,
Can you tell the difference? It works as a noise gate, so I am going to adjust it to taste.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud.
Alright, now let's have a look at these two big knobs, warmth and air. Let's start with warmth. This big knob applies some sort of tube saturations and like a lo-fi EQ curve to it in parallel with the original signal. Let's have a listen to it on the extremes, without and with.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud.
Again, I am going to adjust it to taste.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud.
It's very subtle, but it's there, and I like the vibe it gives. And now let's go to the air knob. This one is like some sort of high-frequency harmonic exciter, so it gives more crisp, more brightness to the vocal track. I am going to show you again the extremes so you can tell the difference.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk.
You can see how bright it sounds when I go all the way up. In order to use this knob, I am going to adjust it by listening the vocal track in context with the rest of the instruments.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves screaming out loud. Never.
Bright enough. Now we have these small knobs at the bottom of the interface. We have clarity here, which I assume it's maybe a dynamic EQ inside this plugin that reduces or removes the nasty frequencies from the signal. And depending on the amount, it will be more or less extreme. Let's see how it sounds.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well.
If you see on the visualizer, it makes some notches, so I guess the algorithm filters the harsh resonances from the vocal track to give it more clarity, as the name states on the knob.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear your.
I'm going to leave it at 100%. And last but not least, we have the body knob. Again, you will be familiar with this knob if you have gain reduction 1. This knob controls the low end of the signal, and it works especially well to tame the plosives of the vocals, P's, B's, etc. In this knob, the lower the value, the less the low end will be. You will see on the visualizer 2 lines, one blue, which is the signal after the body filter, and one purple, which is the signal with the body filter applied.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk to hear yourselves.
Can you see how the low end is gone if I go all the way down? Well, I am going to adjust it to taste to make it a bit crisper, but I don't want to lose all the body of the vocal track.
Sometimes you wait to see yourselves, take happier pills to keep you well. Sometimes you talk.
Somewhere right in between. And finally, let's do an A-B comparison of the vocal track with the rest of the instruments. For that, we are going to go to the chorus of the song. First of all, we are going to listen to it without gain reduction 2 turned on. And now let's turn on gain reduction 2. Now that cuts through the mix.
As you can hear from the video, gain reduction 2 is so much more than just a compressor. It's got everything you need to really dial in a vocal, and it's just got the right amount of aggression and saturation needed to help dial in a grunge vocal in a mix. While some concepts and mix decisions can be defined genre by genre, the large majority of what we do as mixers and engineers can be largely independent of genre. For example, the process to get the perfect guitar tone doesn't have to be genre specific at all. While the gear might change, what your ear is listening for should not. The same goes for many other techniques in your DAW. which is why so many different genres use the same software for recording and mixing. If you're interested in learning the core competencies of any mixer or engineer, come check out all the resources available to JST VIP members. We've got courses like Toneforge Bootcamp that teaches you how to find any guitar tone, and ebooks like Virtual Signal Chain Secrets that dives deep into how your in-the-box signal chain should flow from plugin to plugin for optimal results. You and your friends are into audio, right? Share this video with them. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and ring that bell to get notified when we upload new videos. Check the link in the description below before you go. You're the best. We'll see you soon. Bye.